Namaste. Recently, several people asked me to give them some exercises to relieve sciatica. So I decided to give you a little sample of some exercises that you can do in this video. I think it's important to understand first what sciatica is, and that there are actually two types of sciatica, and it really depends on what type of sciatica you're suffering from, what exercises or stretches or movements will actually going to help. Sciatica is a condition where pressure on the sciatic nerve is causing pain, and that can be pain anywhere from somewhere in the lower back to in the buttocks all the way down the leg. And the sciatic nerve is actually the longest and thickest nerve in our body and runs from the base of the spine comes out several different places and then runs down the buttocks and down the back of the leg. Now, the two different types of sciatica that can happen are discogenic condition or what is called Performace Syndrome. So the first condition is caused by a compression of the sciatic nerve by a bulging disc in a vertebra. So basically a herniated disc where the little gel inside of the vertebra is being pushed out and touches or presses against the sciatic nerve, which can cause pain. So this is something that would happen obviously down here in the lower back. The other way that sciatica shows up is when the piriformis muscle, which is a small muscle that sits in the buttocks underneath the gluteus maximus and attaches to the sits bone, becomes tight or shortened, for example, from sitting a lot. And when this muscle becomes tight, it compresses downward and touches onto the sciatic nerve, and that's also something that can cause a lot of pain. So these two different types of conditions need different treatment or different exercises to relieve the pain. Now, so let's say you have sciatica caused by a discogenic issue, so a bulging disc, herniated discs. In that case, you want to floss the spine, and I'll show you how to do that. You come onto your hands and knees with the hands under your shoulders and your knees under your hips. And you very simply begin to inhale and round your back, let your head hang. And as you exhale, you lift your sits bones, arch your back, draw your chest forward, and your head neutral. And then again, inhale, you round your spine, and exhale, arch your back. And repeat that a few times, just slowly and gently, making sure that this is not causing any pain or aggravates any sensation. So keeping your head in line with your spine, inhaling to round, and exhaling arch. And as you inhale, come back to a neutral spine, and then we'll get to the actual spinal flossing. So bring your hands a little further in front of you so they are not under your shoulders anymore. Now, same thing as we just did, with an addition of a movement of the pelvis. So as you inhale and you arch your back, move your hips back, keep looking forward. And as you exhale and you round your spine, look back as your shoulders move over your hands. Inhale, arching the back, hips move towards your heels, looking forward. And as you exhale and your back rounds, move your pelvis forward, shoulders come over your hands. And then you repeat that a couple times, moving slowly, being very mindful that this doesn't aggravate If you feel any pain, sharp sensations, stop. And two more like this. Inhaling when you come forward and exhaling when you move back. And then slowly come back to your hands and knees into a neutral spine. Place your hands back under your shoulders and pause for a moment. Just to notice the effects of this spinal flossing. And then the next thing you can do is come onto your belly. Legs are extended, elbows under your shoulders. Palms can be flat on the floor or together, whatever feels comfortable. And you let your spine literally hang here. Your legs are relaxed, the buttocks are relaxed. So contrary to what a lot of people think, compression in the spine when you have a herniated disc in the lower back can actually be very helpful. Of course, if your doctor told you that you shouldn't be moving at all, then don't. However, a back bend is definitely a lot more beneficial for any herniated disc issues as opposed to a forward fold. So if this feels okay for your back, rest here in this Sphinx pose for 3 minutes. So you can pause the video for a moment and get a timer and time 3 minutes as you simply relax and literally hang out here in this Sphinx pose, where you have your head in a neutral position, elbows under your shoulders, spine is hanging out, relaxing your buttocks and your legs. And when the 3 minutes have passed, slowly lower your head and your chest down. I'm just noticing for a moment how this feels. And then slowly bring your hands under your shoulders. Carefully come onto your hands and knees. And if it feels okay, you can come into a child pose. Letting your head rest on the floor. If that doesn't feel good, just stay on your hands and knees for a moment. And so that's an exercise that you can do maybe in the morning and at night before you go to bed. And hopefully that will relieve some of the pain. Of course, if you're in any very acute pain, you may be a little more mindful or not practice at all until the pain has subsided a little bit. But generally, my experience is that this is a very helpful exercise. Now, the other option or situation is when the sciatica is caused by a tight piriformis muscle. Since the piriformis is a muscle that is an external rotator for the leg and the hip, we need to create an internal rotation to actually stretch that muscle. So there are two things that I really find helpful to do in this case. I have suffered from sciatica in relation to the piriformis many times, and there are two things that I've done that have helped me tremendously. One is an actual stretch, and the other is actually a passive pose where you slacken the piriformis muscle. So because it's so tight, what you want to do is to slowly invite it to let go of that tightening and unravel it so that it can lengthen again and doesn't press down on the sciatic nerve anymore. So let's start with my screen is going away for a moment. So let's start with the stretch. So you come down on your back, knees are bent, and then you cross your right knee over your left as if you were sitting at a table. And so knees are crossed. And you bring your legs in towards your chest, flex your feet. And then with your hands, grab your feet. So opposite hand to opposite foot. Your feet are flexed. Now press your feet into your hands and really press out. The more you can reach your feet out to the side, the more you will probably feel. And the idea is that you feel the stretch here in the whole buttock, side hip area. Your head stays on the floor. If your head is lifting off or if your chin is lifting higher than your forehead, simply take a blanket and place it under your head so that your neck can stay level and you're not obstructing your breathing. So you stretch here for maybe 5 breaths or so, and then you release. And it may be nice to extend your legs up towards the ceiling for a moment. And gently shake them out. And then as you cross the opposite leg, bending the knees, flex your feet, and again, then you grab your feet. The easiest grip is through the arch, so from the inside to the outside of the foot. And then press your feet out into your hands and pressing your feet not only out but also slightly up until you feel again this nice stretch in the buttock and the outer hip area. So you can keep your lower back neutral on the floor. So nice heavy in the pelvis. And then slowly release that, uncross your legs and maybe straighten them up to the ceiling for a moment. And then let your feet come down to the floor. And then the next posture will be frog pose, which is again a very passive pose. You may like to use a blanket and place it on the floor next to you. And what you'll do is place your knee and your lower leg on top of that blanket. So you see here how there's a 90-degree bend in my knee, and my knee is slightly lower than the hip. If I bring it too high up, you see how much that hikes my pelvis up? So I want to keep it down a little bit. And I rest my head on my hands, or turn the head to the side if that feels comfortable. And the idea is this whole area of the buttock relaxes, and most importantly, the piriformis muscle underneath all these big muscles to relax and help to release that pressure on the sciatic nerve. So again, you can set a timer and rest here for 3 minutes. So you can pause the video for a moment and set your timer for 3 minutes. And then when you come out, you simply slowly straighten out your leg and then relax for a moment. And then you do the other side. So even though you may have pain only on one side, I recommend that you practice this pose on both sides so that you'll keep the balance. And it's a nice way to take 6 minutes of a pause during your day while you're not sitting, especially if you have a job or any other activity that makes you sit a lot. This is a great way to relieve that. And I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just send me an email or comment below. Thank you for your presence. Namaste.